Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Lisa Nijm. I'm a corneal surgeon. I perform corneal transplants, and I'm an attorney. So I'm going to have to talk to Praveen afterwards about how I fit in the year of review. But I am joined today by a really esteemed panel of our colleagues to discuss, I think, a topic that is near and dear to all of our hearts is where we're taking all this innovation and how are we moving this forward? How are we taking anterior segment surgery and taking it to that next level? So I'm going to ask my panel to please introduce themselves, starting with Anthony.
Well, thank you, Lisa, and it's great to be here. Thank you, Craig and Maureen and FRSA and the team for putting this together. We look forward to this meeting every year. So my name is Anthony Wallace. I lead the surgical business at Bausch and Lomb for North America, and I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation, Lisa.
Thank you.
Great. Hi, everyone. So first of all, thank you so much, Lisa, and thank you to the OIS organizers. My name is Leslie Patch. I'm an ophthalmologist. I was in practice for a number of years before joining industry a few years ago, first at an ophthalmic gene therapy company, and then a year and a half ago at J&J. I'm the medical director for our cataract surgery devices, and it's wonderful to be here with you all.
Hi, Lisa. I'm Ehsan Sadri. First of all, isn't this a great meeting? I mean, this is not tied to any Academy or ASCRS. A round of applause to Craig and Maureen. I got a lot out of this great meeting. It's hard to put meetings together. There's less and less people go to the meetings just because you can get everything online. So kudos to you guys. I'm Ehsan Sadri. I'm a board-certified ophthalmologist in Newport Beach, California. I'm also co-founder and GP of Visionary Ventures. So happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Jim Nevelos. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very excited about this meeting. It's been a great couple of days. I head up global clinical research for Rayner. I've been in medical devices my whole career, mostly in orthopedics, relatively new to ophthalmology, and looking forward to the discussions.
Sounds great. So we just heard some incredible presentations about some of the newest things that are being developed for anterior segment surgery, from 3D printing to robotics to AI. So I would just like to ask the panel as we open up, what role do you envision these emerging technologies in playing in enhancing surgical precision and helping improve our patient outcomes? Go ahead, Anthony, you're first.
Okay, all right, terrific. Well, I was blown away by a few of those presentations. A few things. First of all, AI and robotics, I think, go hand in hand. And the amount of data that's captured and generated and captured during a surgical procedure, is really invaluable when it comes to projecting what outcomes will be in the future, and I think it's critical to do that. But I think there's three things. One is we learn from just large sets of data. So we can predict outcomes, we can have better patient impact, we can, surgeons take years or decades to really perfect certain impacts and see the trends that can be done in a matter of minutes now with the right data sets. The second thing is I think there's a level of stress relief that's needed for surgeons, both cognitive and physical stress relief. As we get into future, it's going to be more cataract surgeries, more eye surgeries in general. As we continue to have an aging population, reimbursement continues to go down for HCPs, right? So there's this kind of opportunity to do more with the CAGRs growing over double digits over the next 10 years. So I think it's really important that we have that opportunity to relieve some of that stress. And then the third part is just, I believe there's an opportunity to really redefine surgical procedures, right? Or the entire environment. So if you think about it, 2/3 of the world's population still does not have access to proper surgical treatment. So, can some of this AI and learning help to prepare other surgeons in different parts of the world to do these surgeries and procedures? Can we reach more patients? And I think that's what's really exciting about it.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, thank you. That's actually a perfect segue into what I was going to talk about. So, Lisa, I am just beyond excited to see how artificial intelligence can improve our surgical precision and the potential enormous benefit that it'll have to our patients. And personally, I'm really interested in seeing how this can improve surgical education, because you and Ehsan and me, many people in this room have been through the crucible of residency and fellowship. And I think there's a lot of room for innovation there and also for improving access to really high quality surgical education. So we heard some amazing presentations today, about how, that can be done, through robotics, for example. But I think also just, surgical simulators, having a lot of people having access to, high quality surgical simulators to practice on before getting into the real environment, or, having AI that can analyze, hundreds, thousands of surgical videos and then, give you tips on hand position or instrument position, or changing your phaco settings or how to improve your efficiency. So, I think those are all things, so even if you don't have access to, robotics, for example, you can still do a lot with AI in terms of improving surgical education. And I think the right words were used in one of the presentations that we saw prior. It's all about not just improving surgical, just elevating the level of surgical education, but also democratizing it and standardizing it.
Definitely.
Yeah, so for those of us in the coal mine still seeing patients, I think to Anthony's comments, we have a tremendous, I think, impact and unmet need when it comes to the number of patients with throughput. We have about 500 roughly loss of surgeons every year in this country, and you have baby boomers, about 15,000 that are introduced every single day. So you have aging ophthalmic population, and you have a delta of residents coming out. So and it creates a perfect storm because the reimbursements, because it's budget neutral, is going to get less and less. In my humble opinion, I think JP did a great job of sort of articulating the throughput. I think this is going to be a reality sooner probably than we like to admit. And I think for those of you who don't believe in that, just look at what's happened to Tesla. I mean, if my friend Alex just did a great job presenting, and he bought a Tesla finally. He's a late adopter. But he mentions, this is the game changer. And I think, to me, because now our society has really adapted this AI-based deep learning concept. You see it in airplanes, you see it in cars, surgery is no different. And then I think beyond ophthalmology, if you think about, my brothers are dentists. If you're a dentist, by the way, they have the highest suicide rate because they work so hard. Every single patient, they're doing a procedure. It's not like consults, like we see patients and then we're operating 1 day or 2 days a week. So imagine that de-stress, imagine seeing more throughput there. So I think it has enormous broad implications, and it's disruptive, it's exciting. Patients in this country want innovation, and I think everyone in this room understands that, and I'm very bullish in this space.
Okay, so I actually led the clinical research strategy for the Mako surgical robot for Stryker for joint replacement for about 6 years. And I agree with everything everybody said. The numbers are the numbers, the demographics, the demographics. But the introduction of robotics is challenging. And you have to have a very crystal clear statement of what problem are you solving and where are you going to save money. And I absolutely agree that there was a slide that was presented earlier with one surgeon effectively sitting with 4 robots in 4 rooms doing the surgery. That's the end state. But one of my favorite quotes is all truth is accepted in 3 stages. First it's ridiculed, then it's violently opposed, and finally it's accepted as being self-evident. And that's a journey that's going to happen for robotics, less so for AI because I think the benefits are there. But it's also people throw around these terms, but how good is the data set? Yeah. This is a critical thing. I myself, most of our colleagues here, we're all very focused on collecting that very granular data that we can then use these tools to drive insight. If you don't have a very clear vision of what insight you're going to get that's going to change either your behavior or the surgical procedure, you're not really moving things forward. So there's a lot that has to be put in place fundamentally. And this is what I love about robotics. You know exactly the pathology that the patient has, you know exactly what was done in surgery, and if you follow them, particularly if you're using an app or something to get granular data, you get a very rich, very powerful data set very quickly. And that's what really will drive change. And then you can create very separate pathways, do all the left eyes in one room on one day, and that just needs to happen. Because like I said, we've all seen the demographics, the numbers, there's just not enough surgeons anymore.
Yeah. I think you all bring up really excellent points, and actually, so I'm going to go off script because we make my panel nervous. Because I think that Your points are a few things to highlight. One is that whatever new technologies come about, we have to have things that are reimbursable and things that are able to be implemented into practice. And the technology should solve problems that we have, not create or try to find problems after you have solutions. That being said, do you have concerns about AI in ophthalmology? I mean, we've talked, there's always concerns about data privacy and that type of stuff. And as you're working in companies or you're working in practice settings, what are some of the challenges that you foresee with that, and how do we address them? Whoever wants to start. Go for it.
I don't see as much of the data privacy concerns because I think the right stopgaps can be put in place for that. That may take some time. I do see a challenge with sharing data, and one of the concerns that I've come across in a recent project is EMR systems, right? So most of them are very open to sharing their data, opening their systems for the benefits of surgical planning and so forth, but some of them are not. And I think we have to get out of this mindset of this closed loop, the data's ours, we own the data. If we really care about patient impact, the more data, the better, right? The more learning, the more impact for the patient. So that's probably my concern, is just getting everyone on the same page.
I'll make some comments. I think that, to your point, Lisa, I think the biggest challenge is privacy. I think we still have to safeguard patient data. I mean, that's true right now in our EHR system. I do agree with Anthony. There's a lot of silos, and people are trying to be basically gatekeep their sort of technology, and I think a more open source will be better for everybody. But I do think that the benefits far outweigh the negativity, just because there's just so much need out there. And I think the problem is that you see a decrease in reimbursement. Some people are going to stop doing surgery. You already have the delta. And it's not just surgery. I think it's, if you look at diagnostics, and each day a surgeon spends a lot of time with each patient explaining the same thing over and over again, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about your day. You're seeing patients. How many cataract consults do you have, or corneal consults? And that conversation is repeated over and over again. That should be outsourced. That should be given to the patient. And there should be, right now if you order something online, there's a fake AI bot that kind of takes you through and you're done, right? I think that should be for medicine. So could there be breaches in data? Absolutely, but I think the benefits far outweigh.
And what kind of patient-centric design principles are you employing into these surgical innovations? We hear a lot about what we're trying to do from a physician standpoint, but how are we incorporating the patient in this?
Well, I was actually, can we go back to the other question
Sure.
for just a sec? I like that, where that was going. I was just going to, add on that I think also our own digital literacy, our own learning is, I think that's something, I mean, the programs that we have are only as good as the person that trained them. So, I think that there's still a lot of learning for us to do on how to best train, all these, all this AI on the robotics, to train them to optimally assist us. And I think that's going to be quite a learning process. So that's something I think, from a J&J standpoint that we're looking at very closely.
Yeah, so the patient experience is everything. We're all talking roughly about the same thing. So, if you have the right workup for a patient and the right AI tools, then they're coming into the clinic. You already know the surgery that they're going to get, when they're going to get it, when they're going to get home. One of the things I'm very focused on is introducing this sort of app-based follow-up into clinical studies, because what a patient tells you in the clinic in front of everyone is not necessarily how they really feel. When the waiter asks you, how was your meal, you always say it's fine. Even if it's terrible, you say it's fine. You just don't want to deal with it. So, nothing ruins results like follow-up. So if you can actually get to that real granular data, I have a big focus on eliminating eye drops, which is not for everyone, but we can do that in a lot of cataract surgeries. And it's all the same thing of tracking, getting that information, who is actually going to be suitable for that pathway, who's a day case, who needs to be in a hospital, who can be done in an office. Once you can really have these tools that triage these patients, you can drive tremendous efficiencies.
Yeah, absolutely. We know that innovations in diagnostics and imaging have evolved significantly, and particularly when we're talking about anterior segment surgery, how do these advancements, what are we doing in the operating room to incorporate these things, and what kinds of things are unmet needs or that we know are being worked on for the future?
Well, in clinical practice, we still have a lot of gaps, in my opinion. So, there's a lot of data that we can still get in the operating room that can match what we're getting preoperative data. So in other words, there's all these different, to Anthony's point about EHR, they have different sort of competing technologies that the surgeon has to decide and purchase. It's a big capital cost, right, for all the surgeons. And you have to remember, most of the volume is monofocal therapy in the United States. You have the elite surgeons here, but most of them are monofocal. So it's hard to justify the cost, and there's so many different types of technologies out there, and none of them talk to each other. So I think where we need to eventually go is we need to have a better sort of streamlined systems that can give better perioperative data, so better outcomes. And we have some AI-based formulas that we use. I'm sure you do, being a thought leader. I think that is still in its infancy. So what I'm saying is, when your data before, during, and after surgery, you have to have the systems in place to be able to then get the best outcomes, regardless if the patient gets the premium experience or not. There's this sort of void right now that if a patient doesn't do that, you're just sort of essentially getting a monofocal and getting glasses anyway. But I do think that that patient deserves to get the best visual outcome, regardless of their ability to pay or not.
Yeah, and recently, about a month ago at AAO, at Bausch & Lomb, we launched our surgical planning software called iTelligence, and it really goes a little bit further upstream. But the ultimate goal of this is to make the surgeon more efficient and to have better patient impact. And one of the things that's really neat about it is we started off with 30,000 patient cases in record in there, and it looks at pre and post-op relative to anatomy, and it really gives the right set of parameters to show the best surgical outcomes. And in one case particular, it helps to provide the best option, the best formula to use in preparing for the cataract surgery. Whether you use Kane or whether you use Barrett or Evo, it'll tell you based on the patient records what is your highest accuracy rate, what formula. You can still override that and choose your own, but then it also gives the best lens choices, and it's not trying to promote B&L lenses. It gives you your lens choices. It gives you your, even your femto arcuate calculations. It'll provide your LRI calculations. It'll give your backup lenses, your sulcus lens, everything there to help plan that surgical procedure in a matter of minutes, right? Which sometimes could take 30 minutes or an hour. And the really unique thing about this is you can do this on your cell phone. You could do it. You could plan your surgeries for Monday on your flight home, anywhere there's internet access with a smartphone, and you can do that and leverage all its technology to make you more efficient. And again, this goes back to being able to do more and make you more efficient, and then ultimately leading to better patient outcomes through the calculations and the AI.
Anybody else want to comment on that? Okay, no. We have about a little over 5 minutes left, so we'll do one round robin question. If everyone on the panel could each give your what technology you're most excited about, or what you're looking forward to most in anterior segment surgery innovation. And then, with all of these, we want to keep in mind a key clinical implementation and practical aspect of what type of regulatory hurdles there may be, and what we can do collaborating between physicians and industry to kind of overcome these hurdles. And I'll let you answer all three questions at once.
I'll make a comment. One of the things I'm actually most concerned about is the regulatory side of things, because EU MDR is killing innovation stone dead. And for all of the exciting things we've talked about, the one piece of advice I would say is, make sure you have your business model figured out day one. Absolutely day one. I've seen this, with the implementation of robotics in particular. The business model challenges are underestimated. because one of the challenges that we have is we're going to do a study of a robot versus manual. Where are we going to do that? Oh, well, let's go to a teaching institution. Well, those are the best surgeons. And this happened to Da Vinci. You know, Da Vinci is not a robot, it's a telemanipulator, and I think it's a fantastic system. But some of the early studies showed no difference because you're comparing to the very best surgeons in the world. That's a challenge because that's the system that we have. We do not have a lot of representation in our clinical studies. There's a paper on this, I think FDA referred to it. You know, women are well represented, but minorities are terrible. So there's a lot of work to do to get that foundation before we can really introduce these fantastic technologies that I'm very excited about. I'm just very pragmatic, having been through the process once.
And, I'd love to piggyback on that. So I think one of the biggest challenges that companies face, whether they're big or small, is that really innovative approaches don't often have predetermined success criteria that are aligned with regulatory agencies and standards committees. And so, you know, when you're trying to set very clear, clinically meaningful, and scientifically sound endpoints. That really involves a mindset shift from what is known to what is not yet known, and really helping to be building that bridge for all of us to walk over really involves very proactive and early collaboration between industry and clinicians, as well as the regulatory agencies. And I think early is the key word there, so that all throughout your development strategy, you get input, the right input from the very beginning.
Yeah, you know, I've worked in 13 therapeutic areas, and there's nothing like ophthalmology and the innovation that comes in ophthalmology. With that innovation, though, we've got to find the right reimbursement model. My concern is really around reimbursement. You know, I think historically we've thrown the kitchen sink at things to try to solve problems. And in the future, we're going to have to be much more selective. And some of those therapies are going to be expensive. Some of those procedures are going to be expensive. But if you're targeting the right therapy and there's the best patient impact, there's got to be a reward for that, right? There's got to be pay for that. And, you know, whether it's personalized medicine or whether it's, you know, the ability to leverage data to really highlight the right procedure, we have to acknowledge that. And by doing so, the math actually works out, because if you're not throwing the kitchen sink and you're not having, you know, 13 things thrown at the problem, you can be more specific on what you're going to pay for. And that's something that just right now, I believe there's just a disconnect with CMS and some of the other agencies and truly in medicine, right? And just bridging that gap. So I think it's an opportunity, but right now it is a concern.
So I think, you know, you and I, Lisa, know that, and Leslie, were practicing ophthalmologists. I think we have a unique ability from cradle to the grave to be able to take care of patients. And I think visual outcomes and be able to preserve sight, especially in children, when we talk about progressive myopia, Nick did a great job presenting that. It's a huge need. It's a pandemic. I think people really value that with regulatory insight. I think the parent is going to grab the child and be able to, you know, really give them the best outcome and prevent disease. I think presbyopia is great. So you asked, like, what am I excited about? I'm excited about all of it because we're able to then solve a lot of these things. I mean, think about it, 20 years ago, we had nothing for presbyopia. We had glasses and contacts. Yeah. And, you know, maybe some people would argue LASIK, but really now we have drops. We've got, you know, Alex presented on the different strategy on reformulating the sclera. I think, and then, you know, refractive IOLs. I think people are as this, you know, think about it this way, there is no premium shoulder surgery, right? Ophthalmology is the only field, thanks to people like Bill Link and Andy Corley, our friends, who are irreplaceable. I think the future of ophthalmology is very bright because patients have a choice. And this innovation cycle, people demand better outcomes. And to your point earlier, when I ask a patient, do glasses bother you? They're like, no, I've been wearing them for a long time. And then I'm leaving, they're like, it'd be great to get rid of these glasses. I'm like, we just told me you don't mind wearing glasses. We spent an hour talking about cataract surgery. And so people, even my own father, who I was fortunate enough to operate on him, both of his eyes, he's an 84-year-old ex-military. And when I asked him about glasses, he's like, I don't really care about glasses. And then when I put trifocal lenses in his eyes, he's like, this is damn good vision. So I think that summarizes. I think there's passion. There's people that really care about their vision. They're willing to pay for it. Sir John Templeton said this time is different, right? The famous four words when it comes to capital markets. This is not going to last. I think the capital markets are down, but they're going to be back up. I'm obviously very bullish in ophthalmology. I think we're a special field, like Anthony was saying, and I would just tell you that, with prudent intention, we can do really great things.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think we all agree we're very excited about what we have going on in ophthalmology and where we're heading. And I think really from all the comments from the panel and all their expertise, involving the collaborative effort between physicians, people who have regulatory knowledge, and industry innovators is key from early on. All of the startups, all of the companies that we have here, to try and take that to heart to make sure that the innovations that we're bringing forward not only advance patient care, but make it accessible for us to use for patients. So thank you very much to my esteemed panel, to Craig and Maureen, and to all of you, and we'll be happy to discuss more at the break. Thank you.